Yeah, well, it's actually a culmination of things. I think, one, we both say that we're like the male-female version of each other. It's so funny because when you're a child, you think of Cinderella or that Prince Charming, and when you grow up, you realize that's not really true. And with him, I realized that it actually is true. He has all the same values and morals that I do. And I really fell in love with him, so...
Greetings and welcome to the special edition of the Swirl World podcast. I'm Adrienne Leach, and here on the podcast we discuss topics of interest to men and women involved in interracial and intercultural relationships, subjects ranging from dating and marriage to everything in between. We bring you the best and the brightest people and the most interesting topics, all designed to enhance your life as a swirler. Today, our special guests are two members of the inner workings of the Swirl World page, blog, and podcast. Danyell is a very successful businesswoman who was first introduced to the Swirl World by an interest in being featured in our Profiles blog. Since then, whenever I need a hand with writing or ideas, she has always been available, and I consider her a part of our family. Patrick is also very special to us at the Swirl World because when we were first starting out, he contacted Michelle Matthews Calloway, page founder, and instructed her, me as an aside, that he would become part of the team and help us grow. And he did. He has a marvelous voice and is starting his career as a presenter, that's an English term, voiceover artist, that's what we Americans call it, here in the U.S. Their story is full of fun and hope. May I introduce you to Danyell and Patrick.
Welcome to the Swirl World podcast, brought to you by the swirlworld.com. We're here to help you navigate the exciting world of interracial and intercultural relationships. Whether you've been involved in an interracial relationship for a long time, or you're new to the idea of swirling someone of another race or culture, this is the podcast for you. Here are your hosts, Michelle Matthews Calloway and Adrienne London Leach.
May I introduce to you Danyell and Patrick.
Hi, Adrienne.
Hi, Adrienne.
Hi, how are you all doing?
Great.
Yeah, really good.
That's wonderful to hear. And I'm going to get right into it because I know that our audience knows that you two are very special to the Swirl World podcast, blog, and a Facebook page. And, you know, you're very special to me, too, because we have chatted over the time we've been together, just over goofy stuff and fun stuff, building up that type of relationship that we need in order to get things done for the page. And you all have been instrumental in doing that. So, but I do want to get into some of the questions about you guys. And I think our audience needs to know a little bit about you for those that, and I'm going to do this for my audience to let you know that the voices that you hear at the beginning of our podcast and at the end are Patrick and Danyell. So, Danyell, starting with you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am a mother of two. I have two gorgeous children. My little girl's coming up on a year, and I'm a 6-year-old too. I was pretty much raised in Arizona, kind of grew up with a huge family person, big family. So family was always at the forefront of my life. And then my career, it kind of came second as I kind of grew up, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm definitely a family person and a big, lovable, huge heart. And that's kind of me in a nutshell.
I'm 27. I'm from Limerick in Ireland. And I have a passion for the arts, fitness, and radio. I grew up in a really small town. It's a pretty small community. I think it's like 250,000 people max. And in the early years, by early years, I mean like the early 90s, maybe mid 90s, it wasn't really that diverse, but it's recently gotten more and more diverse as I went into my teens and my early 20s. And I've always wanted a family too. I've wanted a daughter since I was 16. That's me, I guess.
Okay. Well, that's pretty succinct, but we'll get more into you and Danyell as we go along. Well, audience, today, I just want you to know that Danyell and Patrick are opening up about their relationship to us, and maybe giving all of us some pointers and making some observations about modern dating via social networks, internet, long distance, and so forth, because these two are truly a long distance relationship that has had a successful ending. So, and by the way, when I mean ending, I mean him getting to the United States. I'm not talking about ending of the relationship. Let's just get that clear. So we want them to talk to us about that a little bit. And so as we go along with that, I want to start with Danyell. When did you first suspect or detect that you were going to be one of those Black women that were going to exercise your options in who you were going to date?
I think for me it was early on. Growing up in Arizona, there aren't necessarily a lot of options, kind of multicultural, I would say. But I would say I went to school primarily. I was usually the only African-American woman in most of my classes. So really, not to say I wasn't attracted to like other cultures, but it's just kind of what found me and what meshed well. So I would say definitely early on in high school years.
All right. And Patrick, being an Irishman from a small town, as you said, in Limerick, when did you realize that you were attracted to non-white women, especially Black women?
I'd say it was when I was maybe 7 or 8, and I would like look at celebrities, and maybe even remember the Spice Girls. That English group, they had one Black member and the rest were white, and I didn't particularly like the white ones. To me, I guess it was like, because I grew up in kind of a very undiverse place when I was young. It's changed now, of course. But when I was younger, to me, it was like the moon in the sky, something that you wanted to touch but you couldn't. And I was kind of intrigued by that, I guess. And as I got older, that just kind of grew and grew, and as things got more diverse, I found myself just more attracted to Black women.
Well, I have a question about the Spice Girls. Why was Melanie Browne, it's Melanie, correct? Melanie Browne. Why was she Scary Spice? I mean, why did she get that name? Why did they hang her with that moniker?
It was the faces she pulled. It wasn't because of her skin colors. She pulled all these crazy faces, like for her pictures, and she would always have kind of the crazy hairdo, like the curls going out in every direction.
Well, I mean, I just thought it was interesting. So that's good. I'm glad you cleared that up for us. Did anyone in your family, Danyell, or does anyone or any of the women in your family, do they also have dating options? Do they date men other than maybe Black men, or are they dating other types of cultural differences or anything like that?
No, that's so funny because I would say I was the first one in my family to kind of venture out, but I've definitely set the pace because now there are others.
Oh, so others in your family are now beginning to also exercise their dating options.
Exactly, yep.
Do they come to you for advice or asking you like what it is that they think they should be doing or looking for?
I would say my little sister has, just because she wasn't really open to it in the beginning, but now she's kind of like, I should venture out. What's wrong with that? And I'm like, exactly. What's wrong with there's no harm in, keeping your options open and dating outside of your race. So, yeah.
So was there any family member that may have objected to you dating outside of your ethnicity or outside of your culture? And if that were so, how did you handle it?
I don't think there was anyone against it. There were, of course, jokes since I've been little growing up in Arizona that, Danyell's a white girl, she'll end up with a white man. Like those kind of, stereotypical jokes, but no one was against it. I think love is love and your family should support you no matter what. And they have, but I do get those jokes every now and then.
Okay. And what was your reaction to most of them? As you said, they were a joke, but what was your reaction usually if you felt the need to say something? What was your reaction to that?
That I'm not, that you can't help who you fall in love with to. So for me, it's white men, and that's just what I know.
Well, okay. And in that vein, Patrick, one of the things that I've noticed on our page and sometimes on other Swirl pages that when Celtic, and I'm talking about Irishmen, Scotsmen, Welshmen, they're sometimes thought of as being less liberal in regards to dating options when it comes to Black women. I know part of that has to do with the history of people that identified themselves as Irish in the northern part of Massachusetts and Boston during the desegregation stage and so forth. They seems like the most accepting of integration, but I do know that I've had a few say like, well, I didn't think Irishmen liked Black women, or I didn't think Celtic men liked Black women. How do you think that came about? And could you give us could you address that myth?
I honestly, inside the USA, I'm not super familiar with that myth. Outside the USA, nowadays it's non-existent because Irishmen are actually very partial to, well, women of different ethnicities in general, but you see a lot of Irishmen with black in our home country and in the UK as well, because the UK is very diverse. It's like a cold version of California. But I would say that it's to each their own. If it's anything, it's a community, or maybe it's just a select individual. It's not Irish people or Scots people as a whole. Never.
And I agree, it's never anyone as a whole. I think one of the things that we all tend to do sometimes is lump people based on maybe a singular experience that we've had. We tend to do that. So I know that we have definitely told some of the ladies that have asked us that I've never noticed that. And actually, most of the men that are on our page and that are on the World of the Swirl group, most of them are Celtic or, they're either Scottish, Irish. I think we have a Welshman. I said, so they're pretty diverse on our page.
I can answer deeper, at the deepest level. People aren't racist towards different ethnicities. I think it's insecurity. Because I know back home, most of the people who were afraid to even interact with people of different color were people who were in all white communities who never stepped outside of their own card. So they're very unworldly people. And I'd say deep down, it's just, insecurity.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I could see that very much so being part of it. And it's also part of your culture, as you said, and where you grew up. And sometimes if you're in a completely homogeneous society or a group, then it is difficult to break out of stereotypes that you, of course, see on media, because media tends to gravitate toward what sells, and usually negative sells. So I certainly do understand that. Danyell, I want to talk about you and Patrick. You both met through social media. So tell us how you determined that Patrick was worth investing your time with.
Well, for those who don't know, Patrick was on that initial interview that you conducted, Adrienne, and that's how we initially kind of, got to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it was kind of via email, and then we had WeChat, what else, Skype, Facebook.
Yeah, Skype. Yeah, WeChat was the biggest one, though.
And we were talking about this the other day. I don't think there's a single day from that interview and the point we connected that we haven't talked. So it was definitely over time since March.
Yeah,
around March.
It's been about 3 months or 4 months.
Yeah, since March, basically, there's been not a day that we not chatted or Skyped or, basically all day. I would keep him up at night because of the 8-hour time difference. But it was definitely connecting more on an emotional level first. And I think that's so much more important than connecting on a physical level first, which some people often do, because we got to know each other to the core, basically. So we took our time and kind of got to know each other. He met my family via Skype. He met the kids, and the rest is history.
So you found him as a great, when I say investment, and I'm not trying to make it sound like money or monetary, for lack of a better word, investment in you. How did you figure that out through those long talks? What was it that made you feel like, okay, this guy is absolutely worth me continuing on this vein, and hopefully that he will eventually come to the U.S. to get to know me even better? What was it? Could you pinpoint something he said or something that he did that alerted you that this was the one that you really wanted to get to know better?
Well, it's actually a culmination of things. I think, one, we both say that we're like the male-female version of each other. It's so funny because when you're a child, you think of Cinderella or that Prince Charming, and when you grow up, you realize that's not really true. And with him, I realized that it actually is true. He has all the same values and morals that I do. And I really fell in love with him. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. Patrick, in the same vein, what made you decide that Danyell was really worth you making a decision that you would give up your life in Limerick, in Ireland, and come to the U.S. and make it worthwhile, actually meeting her face to face and then determining which way your future was going to be? What was it that made you decide it was worth doing?
Well, most people, when they hear social media, they get scared. And